Welcome back. Senate Democrats failed to pass legislation to reopen the government yesterday for the 10th time. Now the government shutdown stretches into another week. A House-passed bill to keep the military paid while the doors are closed also failing in the Senate procedural vote yesterday. House Speaker Mike Johnson warning service members will miss their paychecks at the end of the month if there is no movement in the Senate. Sources telling me the Democrats have agreed with the extremists to keep the shutdown in place until after the planned No Kings protest tomorrow. More than 2,000 people expected across the country protesting. I spoke with the president in the Oval Office yesterday about that. Watch. Mr. President, do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, I mean, some people say they want to delay it for the king. This is not a king. You know, they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right. No, but just so that Chuck Schumer could go and say, I'm fighting Trump.
Yeah, well, Chuck is, at the end of the line. He's being beaten by everybody that they poll against. I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just so dead that he'll do anything. They made one mistake. They didn't realize that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted. Giveaways, welfare programs, et cetera. And we're doing that, and we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get, and I'm cutting the project.
Joining me now is White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Kevin, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
What has been the impact on the economy of this shutdown so far?
Well, so far, the economy is booming so much because of President Trump's policies that the marginal impact of the shutdown has been small. We're looking at the CEA estimate says it's about $15 billion a week, which is basically, depending if they open up in a week or two, we're looking at knocking a tenth or two off of GDP. But there's so much good news happening in the world and so much reason to be buoyant and optimistic. And we see it everywhere in the data with, capital spending booming and even employment in the household sector measures are doing great. That we think that the tenth or two, it's not going to be visible. But if it continues, if they shut down for a month or 2 months, then it really starts to move things because people aren't getting their permits and so on, and even government workers aren't getting their checks. That'll show up in consumption. And so they need to start to do their responsible constitutional duty and get the government open, and then argue with us about what we should do on health care and everything else. But normal order is what's held in the U.S. Ever since we were founded, and we've got these radical left-wing people who are basically disregarding their Senate duty to keep the government open, disregarding their Senate duty to be the moderating force in Washington. And I think everybody in Washington is very frustrated with it. And as President said, he's got a lot more tools at his disposal. If after this March on Kings thing, the Democrats are still shutting down the government, then you could expect that the president's actions to cancel, silly government programs that the Democrats love and to take them away forever, that's going to ramp up significantly.
So that will be the tools after this weekend, closing down what? Programs that the Democrats want.
Programs. But the bottom line is that we don't want anyone to lose their job. We want everybody to get back to work. There's already been a significant reduction in the federal workforce because of the work that DOJ and the president have done this year. And so we feel like the government has significantly improved in efficiency under President Trump's watch. And so what we ought to do is get that government open and use the efficient government to start to serve the American people.
There's new nervousness this morning and certainly this week in markets, Kevin, after this credit stress fears rattled the regional banking sector. As you know, Zions and Western Alliance both disclosed issues in borrower fraud. Zions reported a $50 million loss last quarter. Western Alliance is now suing a borrower, it says, to recover nearly $100 million. Even Jeffries falling, tied to the bankrupt auto parts maker First Brands, now under DOJ investigation. And as you know, Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan has been warning of credit market excesses after a string of auto sector bankruptcies. What do you make of this, Kevin? Are these isolated fractures, or are these signs of a deeper stress in the economy right now with regard to credit?
Well, right now, the banking sector has very ample reserves. But one of the things that I think has spooked markets is that they've realized, looking at these two anecdotes this week, that the Biden administration, like everything, was asleep at the wheel on banking regulation. We had an almost serious crisis with SVB. And we've got other things that are kind of like messes that the Bidens left us that we need to clean up. But the good news is that we've got really talented, top-notch people in place cleaning things up right now. And so we're very optimistic that we can stay way, way, way ahead of the curve on this. We've got the very best people on earth working on it, people like Mickey Bowman at the Fed and Scott Bessent at Treasury. And so we think that the market should recognize that there's a new team in town, and this team is going to clean up the mess that the Bidens left us.
Well, of course, then we're worried about trade as well, particularly with this China tensions flaring up again. Beijing imposing tighter export controls on rare earth minerals and refining of those minerals. The Trump administration setting price floors across a range of industries. And the president threatened 100% tariffs by November 1st. The president also ready to impose a block on Chinese cooking oil imports after Beijing stopped buying American soybeans. The president made news yesterday with me when he talked to me about that 100% tariff that he's threatening. All this as he prepares to meet Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in Seoul later this month. Kevin, what should we expect? I mean, China controls nearly 70% of the global rare earth supply when it comes to refined rare earth minerals. How much leverage does China have, and how is the administration going to deal with this?
Look, the bottom line is that we're sitting here today, Maria, with the White House behind me, and today's going to be a very historic day. We're moving closer and closer for the president ending yet another war. He's got Vladimir Zelensky coming to town, and he's going to be meeting with President Putin. This guy is a world historic figure. For centuries and centuries, they're going to talk about how many wars he ended and how much peace he built in the world. Now, we're not at war with China. We've had collegial relations with China. President Xi and President Trump are very close with one another, and we've been disappointed with some Chinese actions. But if you bet against President Trump's ability to land this plane, then you might win. But anyone who bet against him on anything else since we've been here would have lost. And I have high confidence that President Trump and Secretary Bessent are going to be able to get together with the Chinese and get this back to a place that's good for both countries.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know the leverage that China has. They're controlling that rare earth refined minerals right now. But the president has taken a stake in Mountain Pass. He's trying to get supply chains back here to, level the playing field. But that takes time, right, Kevin? I mean, you're not going to get all those supply chains here overnight.
Right. It does take time to get the stuff going, but we've got the best team in the business, the team that gave you warp speed and got vaccines faster than anyone thought possible, working on it. We've got our old friend Peter Navarro. I don't think I've seen him sleep in a month because he's working so hard on this project. And the other thing is that we've been checking in with the companies that are affected by this and checking how their inventories look. And I think that there's a lot of runtime and then a lot of uptime that you're going to see in the next 1 to 3 years. And so, China has a little bit of leverage right now. They could disrupt the world economy. I guess if they shut it completely off, but then it would hurt them more than it hurts us. And so we don't think they're going to really do it. I think that this is a posture for negotiation. And if they're negotiating with President Trump, I'm highly confident that the interests of the American people will be served by the deal.
And then there's the Fed. Jay Powell keeping the central bank on track for another rate cut we expect later this month. The meeting is at October 28th and 29th. But he said that there's weakness in the jobs market, and it's a bigger risk now than sticky inflation. He's actually pivoting now away from talking about tariffs. Fed governors are showing a divide over how aggressively, though, the move should be. Christopher Waller is supporting a quarter-point cut. Stephen Myron, who I spoke with yesterday on this program, wants a half-a-point cut on this trade uncertainty. Kevin, he says now that we have new, aggression from China, it becomes that much more important to cut rates by 50 basis points, although he just told us yesterday he's expecting 3 cuts of 25 basis points. Is that enough? You've been talking for some time about the need for lower rates as well. Do you think 3 cuts consistently of 25 basis points does it?
Well, the good news is that the one thing the Fed is good at, they're maybe good at a few things, but this thing they're really good at is signaling what they're going to do ahead of time. And they're telling us now we're going to get 3 rate cuts of 25 basis points, and that's a start. That's a start. And then what you do after that is you watch the data, make sure that the economy continues to boom and inflation doesn't take off. And if you understand economics, you should know that that's going to happen with almost 100% certainty because we're having this massive supply shock in the U.S., a positive supply shock because of increased productivity from artificial intelligence. And so when you have a big positive supply shock, then that puts downward pressure on prices. And it's just what happened, Maria, back when I first met you, pretty much back back in the 90s, and Alan Greenspan, everybody was telling him because of the Phillips curve, the unemployment rate was low, that he needed to hike rates. And he said, no, the unemployment rate is low, but it's because of a supply shock from the computer revolution. And so I'm going to leave rates low. And he gave us 3 or 4 years of really blockbuster growth. And it's my expectation that that's what markets should expect right now.
Yeah, great analogy there. Kevin, look at the macro story for us. Where is the growth right now? And we don't have any data because of the government shutdown. So what are you looking at to assess the level of growth in this economy? How would you assess 2026 expectations?
I think that we're cruising around 4%, and that there's no reason why, with all the positive factors going, that can't continue. The people who tell you it's going to be a lot worse than that, and we might be running a recession, are pointing at something that's actually good news and good for the economy. People don't recognize it, but if you compare Joe Biden's last year to President Trump's this year, plus extrapolate the current trends, we're going to reduce the deficit in 1 year by $600 billion. Think about it, Maria. A smaller deficit by $600 billion. That makes it so that interest rates can go down, whatever the Fed does. Mortgage rates could come down, and that means there'll be more home building. And there's, when you want to see really big booms, like 4 or 5%, it's because home building takes off. And we're helping that happen with this massive, massive new fiscal policy that's coming mostly from the tariff revenues. The other thing I'm looking at is in the jobs numbers, that, again, on the household survey side, everything's booming, just like everything else. So it could be we should just believe that. But on the payroll side, everybody's been saying that the sort of getting rid of illegal immigrants was going to be a big, huge negative shock to the job market. Now, it's true that non-native-born workers have lost about 500,000 jobs this year, but native-born workers have gained about 2 million, which is astonishing, right? People said, oh, they were taking jobs that Americans won't take. And the most interesting thing is that when you read the media accounts, sometimes there are unfortunate, racial connotations about just securing the border. About 1 million of the 2 million jobs created this year are from Hispanic Americans, because most Hispanic Americans are native-born. And so there's just so much good news in the economy right now that I think that the outlook needs to be positive, but it's not inflationary because it's coming from this positive supply shock.
And by the way, the native-born, the group you're just mentioning, they also don't want people cutting the line and getting in front of them.
That's
They
right.
also don't want the illegal immigration. Kevin, it's great to catch up.
And their salaries are booming, too. Their salaries
the salaries
are booming,
are also booming. That's an important point. Good to see you. Thanks very much.
Good to see you, Maria.
Kevin Hassett
Bye-bye.
joining us. All right, we will see you soon.